You know, some dates are just dates. They come and go. But every once in a while, a date comes along that draws a clear line in the sand, a before and an after. November 30th, 2022. Yeah, that was definitely one of those dates. And the crazy thing is, it didn't arrive with some huge thunderclap or a massive announcement. It was quiet. It started more like a whisper, just a simple, blinking cursor on a web page, kind of staring back at you, just waiting.
And that quiet little moment, it kicked off what we can really only describe as a new geological era for technology. So let's get into it. Welcome to our deep dive on the Silicon Cambrian.
Okay, so let's really dive into this. For so many of us, this was it, wasn't it? Our first real conversation with an AI, the day ChatGPT 3.5 dropped. It was this clean, simple interface, a blank slate that suddenly felt like it held, well, infinite possibilities.
Back then, it felt like the main event, didn't it? Just pure magic. But here's the thing. What if it wasn't the destination? What if that chatbot was just the first little tremor, a signal that something much, much bigger was about to happen? To really wrap our heads around the scale of what began that day, we have to look back. And I mean way back. We're going to rewind the clock about 585 million years, because there's this surprising, incredible echo of our own time hidden back there.
And the parallel is just striking. So 585 million years ago, the very first evidence of complex life shows up as these faint little burrows in the mud. Then you fast forward to 2022, and a whole new kind of complexity proves its utility through a simple chat interface. Both of them were the first quiet signals of an absolute explosion that was just waiting to happen.
That explosion is called the Cambrian explosion. It's this moment in Earth's history where, basically in the blink of an eye in geological time, the blueprints for nearly all animal life we know today just appear. It was like evolution slamming its foot on the accelerator. I mean, for billions of years before that, life was overwhelmingly simple. We're talking single-celled stuff, maybe some sponges. It was a very quiet, very static world. But those first little creatures, burrowing in the mud, proved that a new kind of complexity was possible. And that one little fact, it changed everything.
So here's the crucial point. Once that potential was proven, this period of just incredible, rapid creation was completely unleashed, a great diversification. So let's take a look at what fueled that ancient moment and what's fueling ours.
The parallels here are just uncanny. So both explosions needed a fuse to prove what was possible, right? For life, it was those trace fossils. For AI, it was GPT 3.5. And they both needed fuel. For ancient life, you had more oxygen in the atmosphere and the new threat of predators forcing everybody to adapt. For AI, you've got nearly infinite computing power and this fierce cutthroat competition between companies. But in both cases, the result was exactly the same, an explosion of new forms.
And once that fuse was lit and the fuel was there, both of these timelines just erupted with a pace of innovation that is, well, it's breathtaking. In the ancient oceans, suddenly there were creatures with shells, with spines, with complex eyes. You had trilobites scuttling all over the seafloor. The first apex predators like Anomalocaris were starting to hunt. Entirely new body plans were just appearing out of seemingly nowhere.
And in our world, we got an explosion of new AI models. All of a sudden, we had GPT-4 with its incredible reasoning skills and Claude 3, which can basically read an entire library in seconds. And at the same time, this whole swarm of open-source models like Llama and Mistral just emerged, each one with its own unique body plan, its own architecture, evolving out in the wild for anyone to build on.
And these new forms came with incredible new functions. The Anomalocaris developed some of the first complex eyes to see and hunt in its world. In parallel, models like GPT-4 developed what's called multi-model vision, which is really just a fancy way of saying it learned to see and analyze the digital world through images, not just words.
And this is absolutely key. This evolution wasn't just about getting better at one thing, like text. No, it was about developing entirely new ways to perceive and to interact with the world around it. It was about growing new senses.
So first AI learned to see. Or maybe a better way to put it is it learned to create what it sees, with models like Midjourney. Then it learned to hear, and even to sing, with these AI composers like Suno, creating entire songs. And just recently, it's learned to move, generating dynamic video from a single sentence with models like Sora.
This right here, this is the heart of the whole analogy. The development of sight fundamentally changed the entire game of evolution on Earth. And in our time, giving AI the ability to process and generate images and audio and video, well, it's having that exact same transformative effect.
So, where does all this leave us? Well, we are no longer just looking at a clever chatbot. Not even close. We are witnessing the birth of a complex, interconnected digital ecosystem.
It took just 3 years. Think about that. We went from a single, blinking cursor to a world that is absolutely teeming with new digital life, including AIs that can work together as agents to get really complex things done.
You know that ancient spark? That first little trace of movement 585 million years ago? It ultimately led to every single animal on Earth today. The point is that ChatGPT 3.5, that was our spark. It lit a fuse, and right now, we are living right inside the explosion that followed.
Which leaves us with one last kind of staggering thought. The biological Cambrian explosion played out over tens of millions of years. Our Silicon Cambrian is playing out in months, sometimes even weeks. So you have to ask the question, what happens when the pace of creation itself starts evolving?